This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for December 21st, 2023. This is Season 13, lucky Season 13, Episode number 11. And it is Episode 396 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. I'm your host, Bob Howard. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. I am very excited about this episode because if you've been waiting for a particular position to show up on this show, well, then this is your show. So you'll be very happy with the guest that we have on this week. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast and subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for the Power Play Post Show and join our group. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And as I just previewed just a little bit, on this episode of the Power Play Post Show, Binghamton Black Bears goaltender Connor McAnanama. And what a great kid. Got to talk to him a little bit. I've gotten to know his father a little bit as well. And just a really great interview. I'm really excited so far. I got to be honest with you guys. I've had a great time talking to these players here with the Binghamton Black Bears. They are all really, really down-to-earth, great kids playing the game of hockey that they love. And I'm just glad to be able to tell their story, right? You know, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. When I interview these players, we're kind of telling their story. We get a little insight on the games from them, but at the same time, we get to learn a little bit about these guys. And let's be honest, they don't get paid a lot of money. They're here playing hockey because they absolutely love it. Some of these kids have master's degrees. They have college, degrees that they could go out and be doing anything else. We've already talked to a couple players this year who have, their 4-year, 5-year, in some cases they have a couple master's degrees. So they could be going and doing a lot. They could be making a lot of money doing other things. And yet they're here playing hockey in Binghamton because they love hockey in Binghamton, because they love the fans here in Binghamton, and you hear that throughout most of my interviews. And I'm just very excited and very honored. This is going to be the last interview of 2023 that I do with pretty much anybody. Next week's show is going to be a little bit different. We'll talk about the upcoming games that Binghamton will play against the Watertown Wolves, but then we'll also take a look back at 2023, the end of last season and the beginning of this season, and of course the Power Play Post Show and how we fit into all that. So I'm very excited to have that show as well. A little bit of a break. It'll be in between Christmas and New Year's, and then the first show back in the new year, we will obviously bring on a guest. I already have somebody in mind to maybe talk about so far the beginning of this season. So we'll get to that. Maybe I'll announce it next week who will be on the first week of the new year. So let's talk a little bit about the last two games. The last two games, obviously, against Danbury and, of course, against Watertown. Now, of course, we won both of those games, as everybody knows. I think Binghamton had a great weekend. I think there was some unfortunacies that happened in both games, more so on the opponents of the Black Bears than the actual Black Bears themselves. I understand the whole Nikita Ivashkin, the lewd gesture, the suspension. I get all that. But I think the Black Bears really Before I break down these games, talk about these games a little bit, and give some of the insight, I really think that the Black Bears have had to react mostly this year. I think the majority of the things that have happened that might be ugly may not be the best things you want to see, right? Last week the FPHL debuted their new podcast, and one of the big things they talked about was the P stands for prospects. And that's all true, right? Anybody playing at any level of hockey, if you're not in the NHL, you're just looking to move up. You're looking to get better. You're looking to improve. So it doesn't matter if it's the FPHL, the SPHL, the ECHL, the AHL. Everybody's looking for that next step up. And you can't blame any of these kids for doing that. But at the same time, I think that the Black Bears have had to react to how some people play when they're not playing well. And what I mean by that is that the Watertown Wolves and the Danbury Hat are not playing well this season. I mean, they're okay. Danbury's okay. Watertown doesn't have no wins or just one win like Delaware has the last couple of years at this point in the season, but they're still not playing to their level. And though I think there's parity within this league, more so than there has been probably in other years, you have two teams that are probably not playing as well as they want. And so they're doing things to get under the skin, to get under the, just get into the head of a team that's playing well, and that is the Binghamton Black Bears. The Black Bears are playing well on all facets of the game. I think it starts with coaching. I think it starts, then goes to the captainship. And then I think the offense is very good. I think defensively, they play well, team defense, better so than any other time. And I think goaltending-wise, they're great. They have two outstanding goaltenders in Sam Levici and, of course, Connor McAnanama. And I think Nolan Egbert is the perfect number 3. Because from what I can tell from talking to people, Nolan is that guy that walks into the locker room and people just want to be around him. So there is no real major issues. Now, when we talk about the one glaring thing that you can see about the Black Bears, which might be penalty trouble, they also got one of the best penalty kill units out there, probably 2 units that can kill penalties at any given time. So they are reacting to, obviously, other teams' dirty hits, just really bad play by the other team that then affects that team, and they take a penalty, and then Binghamton turns around and reacts in some cases. If that's the only fault that I can find on this team 19 games into the season, fine. So be it. It's okay. I'm all right with that. If a team's going to react and they're going to put themselves down by, down 2 minutes or even 5 minutes or whatever it might be, they've been able to cover their asses, so to speak, right? I hate to swear or whatever, but it's true. They've been able to cover their asses if something happens. But this weekend, and even a couple of the other weekends, what we've seen is other teams cannot play at the same level as Binghamton. Carolina definitely can. And I don't blame the 4th game against Carolina from a couple weekends ago, the Saturday night game. I don't blame that on Carolina. I'm not saying that Carolina caused the ruckus that happened there. I truly think that Binghamton was a little frustrated. They kind of, that was their own doing, right? But and when they've played against, so far they've played against Carolina. I think Carolina's so far been the best team that they've played against. They haven't played against Motor City yet. Motor City's sliding a little bit. But I think that most of the time, against Danbury and so far this Watertown game, and we'll see what happens this upcoming weekend, when these two teams don't play well, they try to get a little bit more physical to get into heads. And I think Binghamton's handled it perfectly fine. Yeah, sure, you probably don't want to see your coaches getting fined. You don't want to see players getting suspended for lewd stuff. But let's be honest with you. They were taking they were taking advantage of Nikita Ivashkin in some cases. They were trying to get into his head. And they did. It worked. But, it still didn't change the fact that they won the game against Danbury. And that's one of the things you have to remember, right? Sometimes, the opponent's going to get into your head, and sometimes you're going to make a mistake. And, sometimes you're going to do something that you're going to have to pay for. And so he has, and everything. But let's take a look back at the last two games, all right? Friday night versus Danbury, the Hat Tricks, it was a 4-2 win for the Binghamton Black Bears. This was the 7th game of 18 meetings this season for the two teams. With the Black Bears win, they have now won their last 6 games against the Hat Tricks in a row. Now, we would have never envisioned that the last 2 years. Let's be honest here. Danbury's been good. Coach Billy McCreary has always put on a good team. And with what he's got, because he's been decimated. His defense was decimated by call-ups to the SPHL and the ECHL. Let's be honest. It's the truth. If none of those players would have been called up, the Black Bears and the Hat Tricks probably would have more of an even record in 7 games, right? 4-3, maybe 3, but no. Decimated. And Binghamton has taken advantage of that. And Binghamton is good. The Don was back. Donald Oliveri was on a line with Tyson Kirkby and Austin Thompson. Very well. Gavin Yates was out all weekend due to suspension, as well as you didn't see Daniel Amesbury in that game due to his lengthy suspension as well. Connor McAnanama started for the Black Bears, who looked very good all season, and especially in his last outing. In the first period, after a big hit from the hat-trick Steve Brown, which he was a pest all night for the Hat Tricks. The Black Bears, Austin Thompson, a scrum occurred, putting Brown into the penalty box for 2 minutes alongside Austin Thompson and Donald Oliveri. Oliveri took exception to the way Steve Brown went after Thompson. This led to a very quick goal, still 5-on-5 for the Black Bears, off the stick of Dakota Bond, who's really starting to pick up his game. Just seconds after the Brown hit on Thompson. So it didn't take long for Dakota Bond to score that goal. It was very quick, just face off, pass, and score. That it was really that quick, that easy. These teams know each other very well and has seemed to trade good spurts on the ice. Oliveri was very upset with the hit on Thompson by Brown. He was seen at the later parts of the first period talking for a long time with one of the referees. Now, maybe one of the things you didn't see on YouTube because, they might be doing other things, showing commercials or whatever, and they probably went to commercial. If you didn't see this on YouTube, Donald Oliveri spent a long time talking to the one of the referees afterwards. And I really think that, he was doing it in a very professional way. I think he was showing his leadership. Once again, Oliveri doesn't have an A on his chest, and he's 100% a leader in that locker room. And he's not in the locker room all week long, but when he gets there, he puts everything on the table. He's a pro. He's a pro's pro, and he sticks up for his teammates. I liked what he did in both of these games when the dirty stuff started to come down. Donald Oliveri made sure that in the right ways, he put the game on his shoulders and created exactly what needed to be done. He had a really good game. Great weekend. So Oliveri, if you're listening to this, the Don, if you're listening to this, you probably not, which is fine. I understand. Great performance by you all weekend long, in my opinion. Connor McAnanama played well in the first period, but with the defense in front of him, he didn't have to be great. He was good, but he didn't have to be great because that defense was good in front of him. He didn't see a lot of grade A shots, at least in my opinion. In the second period, was dominated by the Black Bears. They out-shooting the Hat Tricks 15-6. However, they could not get past Liam Murray. If you look at the online stats, it says McCollum was in goal. He was not. It was Liam Murray. However, at the end of the period, with Samuel Teterat in the box for roughing, Thomas Ray scored for the Black Bears the second goal of the game on the power play. Well, actually, it was only the first one on the power play. Black Bears dominated and they got only one goal on the power play late, so it was 2-0 at that point. The third period saw a lot of feisty play, which will likely see a couple players face suspension, which we definitely saw. The multiple game misconducts being handed out. However, the hat trick scored first in the period with the goal at the 14-14 mark off the stick of Bohdan Zinchenko. Now, what's interesting about this, they went 14 minutes in. So that means Connor McAnanama shut him out in the first, shut him out in the second, and went 14 minutes and 14 seconds into the third before Danbury scored. Donald Oliveri returned the favor, putting the Black Bears up by 2 goals in just 11 seconds after that goal. So that was pretty impressive. And here's one of those things. Donald Oliveri scores that goal. It's now 3-1 at this point. And he literally comes over and he just salutes that Danbury Hat Tricks bench. And it was beautiful. I got pictures of it. It was a beautiful sight. With Liam Murray pulled for the extra attacker, Daniel McChicktrick scored to cut the lead in half, but with only 30 seconds left, the Black Bears were able to close out this for their 6th win straight over the Hat Tricks, this time by the score of 4-2. No matter how the game goes against these two teams, the two teams do not like each other. And the 11:31 mark of the third period was another example of this dislike between the two teams have for each other. The 11:31 mark incident totaled 80 penalty minutes between the two sides. The Black Bears are now 13-2-3 on the season after Friday night's game. First in the Empire with 41 points, tops in the NHL, or in the FPHL. NHL, FPHL, it's all the same, right? You know, it really doesn't matter. Let's take a look at those. Let's take a look at that. That third period at the halfway mark, 11:31 mark, because to me that was really kind of the start of how this weekend really started to go kind of sour. For Danbury and Watertown, because they started to do things that they just shouldn't have done. So in this, you have how I saw it was that you had basically Nikita Ivashkin, who was battling along the boards, and you had Yao there, you had Harwell there. I'm trying to think of who the other guy was that was a main player in this. I think it was Harwell and Jared Yao and Nikita Ivashkin and Tyson Kirkby. They were the kind of the main players in this whole thing. And Nikita was getting kind of roughed up by Jared Yao, Harwell, and those Di Nicola. Okay. And essentially what happened was eventually it ended up where Nikita was down on the ice on top of one of the Danbury Hat Tricks players. Jared Yao comes around and just starts pounding on the back of Nikita Ivashkin while the linesman is on top of him and Harwell, right? This is very reminiscent to basically very similar to what Gavin Yates did in Carolina, right? And so he's just, Jared Yao is just pounding. I mean, you can see his fist. I've got pictures of that as well because I was taking a lot of pictures during this game up from the press box. And the bad part about this is, first of all, Jared Yao is doing something that Gavin Yates just got 3 games for the week before, right? So that now you have a guy who should get a suspension and everything, and I believe he did get the 1 game for that, maybe 2 games, but he did get suspended for that. But then also Nikita Ivashkin kind of lost his cool a little bit because I don't think he liked the fact that he was getting pushed around, and then other people came and got involved when the linesman was down on him. So he might have just done some lewd gestures. He doesn't obviously speak great English, and that got him those suspensions. So in this, you had inciting an opponent by Nick Di Nicola. Jared Yao got an aggressor. Chase Harwell got the third man in game misconduct. Yao and Harwell both got fighting majors. Kirkby got a fighting major because he was fighting Yao, I believe it was. Nikita got the fighting major. He was fighting Harwell. And then you had, let's see here, inciting an opponent for Andrew Logar. You had Tyson Kirkby fighting after the altercation, game misconduct. And then, of course, Nikita got the game misconduct for the lewd and inappropriate gesture. Okay? But again, some of this happens because of the bad play by the Danbury Hat Tricks. Okay? That's really what it comes down to. You also had, I think it was Sam Dabrowski. Got a no, it's not Sam Dabrowski. Oh, there we go. Zachary Pamalalian from Danbury in the first period, 1703, gets spearing double minor. Where are these spearings coming from? I watched the AHL for 20 plus years of my life, maybe 30 years of my life. I never saw this much spearing. This has got to, this is just crazy on how much this is happening. And it's not usually the Binghamton Black Bears. So are you telling me that our coach coaches so differently that our players don't need to do this kind of stuff? We had the Gavin Yates incident, right? Where he did what he did. And it's wrong. And he got suspended. And he should have gotten suspended. And he knows it. Everybody knows it. They're not arguing that. Here's the other thing I want everyone to know. And this isn't because the Black Bears do not support their players. They do. But when the league comes down with their decision, they abide by them. They're not questioning that. They're not appealing it. They abide by what the league comes down with. And I just want people to know that. I know specifically because I asked about that, and that's what I was told. So, moving on from that, again, the Black Bears, so they're 13-2-3 coming out of Friday. Nikita Ivashkin the next day gets the 3-game suspension, so he's done, right? For, let's see here, the Saturday game and the upcoming 2 games. So he's not going to be in the game on Saturday night, and he wasn't. So basically, let's go through this first. Binghamton forward Nikita Ivashkin has been suspended for 3 games as a result of his actions of the FPHL game number 89 in Binghamton on Friday night. This entire altercation was started by Mr. Ivashkin. Now, I kind of disagree already right there with Dave Jackson. Dave Jackson didn't watch the first 4 minutes before the altercation happened. And if he did, he knows where to find me. But he didn't. And I'm not sticking up for Nikita. But when you start off this incorrectly, regardless, yes, Nikita did what he did. He deserves the suspension. It wasn't cool. Shouldn't have done that in front of kids. Shouldn't do that in front of, just human beings in general, the lewd stuff. But if you're not paying attention to the first 3 or 4 minutes and then you start this off this way, sorry, that's just my opinion. I know I'm right. Sorry, Dave Jackson, you're wrong. He pushed Danbury's number 4 to the ice, then followed up by punching him in the back of the head as he landed on him. Okay, fine. All right. We've seen that multiple times, not get suspended for it. This dirty play was unnoticed and led to multiple penalties and ejections. Mr. Ivashkin went to the penalty box and once inside decided that he needed to deliver a message to his opponent in the form of multiple lewd gestures. I do not understand or how or why the league's message about inappropriate behavior and gestures in a family environment continues to be ignored game after game. This sounds like a little bit from Dave Jackson. Now, I've liked a lot of what Dave Jackson has done with explaining these. But to me, does this not sound like to you like he's on a soapbox, right? Tell us the rules. Tell us why you're suspending a player. We don't need your effing commentary. That's what I'm going to tell you, Dave Jackson. I like what you've done so far. I don't need your effing commentary. And that's what you're basically doing here. Be professional on your end if you don't like these guys being unprofessional on their end. In today's society, so here we go. So we're getting into something that's even Now, in today's society, these things are not taken lightly, and other leagues have been making concerted efforts to end these practices by issuing lengthy suspensions and hefty fines. Let me tell you something right now, Dave Jackson. When you allow somebody to injure players game after game and you do not ban him from the league, don't talk to me about making concerted efforts to end these practices by issuing lengthy suspensions and hefty fines. Okay? Again, why is there so much commentary and an explanation about rules? There doesn't need to be. Again, the FPHL will not tolerate this type of non-hockey actions that make the entire league look bad. Mr. Ivechkin will be suspended 1 game for the punch to the back of the head. Fine, I'm okay with that. 2 games for the multiple lewd gestures. I'm fine with that. He can remove the commentary out of this, and that would be good. All right. Connor Smith goes into this game with a 10-game point streak, making it 11 games. He gets that. Coach Brent Sherwood has not played the same goalie back-to-back in a weekend yet this season, but did so on Saturday with Connor McAnanama. No Yates and Ivechkin, but Alveri went on a line with Kirkby and Ryan Terse. And Ryan Terse is the extra forward. Okay, so in the first period, with Mark Botero cross-checking and Dustin Henning tripping both in the box early in the first period, the Black Bears scored a 5-on-3 power play goal to take a 1-0 lead. 4 minutes and 4 seconds later, Josh Fletcher scored to give the Black Bears a 2-0 lead before the halfway mark of the first period. Now, Donald Oliveira again made the difference on the power play with his electric shot, putting this game up 3-0 on the lead for the Black Bears. The Black Bears were 2 of 3 on the power play. Connor Smith now has 11 straight points in 11 straight games, and it was a 3-0 lead after the first period. Now, in the second period, no scoring in the second period, even though the Black Bears peppered Josh Rosenweig with another 15 shots. Dakota Seaman was assessed a match penalty for a cross-checking as he two-handed cross-checked Donald Oliveri. This period was more feisty than the first. Not a fan of the two-handed cross-check to the head. No scoring at all in this period. This is not common in the FPHL. Connor had a great 2 games this weekend so far up to this point. Now, of course, I'll be honest with you. I went into this period thinking, all right, the third period, I was like, all right, just like last night, Watertown will find a way to get on the score sheet. The third line came alive in the third period, and I truly mean this. Andrew Logar, Justin Samaro, setting up Liam Anderson for the Black Bears' 4th goal at the 8:30 mark. After an illegal check to the head for T. Leeson, Josh Fletcher jumped up, dropped his gloves, which led a big to-do for the Black Bears and the Wolves, which will probably lead to more suspensions, and it did. However, the Black Bears shut down the Wolves the rest of the way, and Connor McAnanama earned his 2nd win of the weekend and the first shutout of the season for the Black Bears, earning the number 1 star of the game, completely 100% deserved. Another ugly moment in this game at the 13:40 mark. Watertown players were frustrated, no doubt, but going after heads is unacceptable, at least in my opinion. But apparently, lewd gestures are more so to give Dave Jackson a 15-sentence, commentary when talking about a suspension. I'm sorry, I have a problem with it. Again, love what Dave Jackson has done for the league. Keep the commentary crap out of that stuff. Connor McAnanama was stellar all weekend and earned the Black Bears' 3rd franchise shutout and the 1st of the season. I would be neglecting my duties if I didn't also mention that Josh Rosenweig's performance. 58 saves. He saw 62 shots. He was pretty good. I mean, this game could have been 7-0. It could have been 6-0. He made some great saves, so good for him. Let's take a quick peek at the box score for the previous game here, right? So when we look at this, obviously 4-0. Scoring wise, we've already covered that. Tyson Kirkby, Josh Fletcher, Donald Oliveri, Liam Anderson, Kirkby and Oliveri had the power play goals, but then there was a few things that happened in this game that obviously led to some fines. Both Tom Reynolds got his inciting by a coach or team staff game misconduct at the 9:03 mark. I have a feeling he just wasn't happy with the way the game was going. And then the other two that I want to bring up was obviously Sherwood and Verbeek getting their inciting by a coach. From every single report that I've heard, now where I was in the press box, you couldn't really see down by the box. So at the 13:40 mark was where the Tate Leeson illegal check to the head match penalty occurred that he did on Josh Fletcher. Josh Fletcher pops back up, starts beating the piss out of Tate Leeson. Well, Verbeek apparently did not like this, and I couldn't see this, but from reports of people who were behind the bench, my conversation with Coach Sherwood himself, and then people that actually could see what was happening from across the thing, including Gary Ryan from the Fed League Flash, was that essentially Verbeek was basically telling his players to go out there and basically start a bench clearing brawl. This is what he was trying to do. Now, referees, linesmen, Coach Sherwood is screaming at Verbeek, basically telling him, stop it the F off, calm down, trying to get him to not do this. This is not a good thing for the league. This is not a good thing for Verbeek. It's not a good thing for the Watertown Wolves. And it probably wouldn't have been a good thing for the Black Bears because more suspensions, more injuries, things of that nature can happen from those type of things that you just don't want to happen. Not when you're the best team in the league and not when you are playing as good as you are. So Sherwood, Verbeek both get fines for that. And I would just want to tell anybody who's listening, the GoFundMe right now does not need to be had for Sherwood. So far, he's okay with paying these fines. He's good. He appreciates the offer and everything, but unnecessary at this moment. So then we take a look at really what happened. So basically, Tate Leeson illegally checked Josh Fletcher to the back of the head, and he falls down. Fletcher pops back up and just starts wailing on Tate Leeson. And it was, honestly, I was in shock. I took a ton of pictures of this whole incident as well. Tyson Kirkby, I believe he was on the ice. Let me see here. No, he was not. It was Dan Weber who also took a sucker punch to get involved in this whole thing. He took the sucker punch from Trevor Lord. Trevor Lord got a game misconduct, or got a suspension from it. Tate Leeson got a 2 games. So Tate Leeson won't be playing this upcoming week, and neither will Dakota Seaman, because Dakota Seaman at the 12:09 mark of the second period, he got a cross-checking match penalty, same type of situation, and he basically went after Donald Oliveri. So I don't know what's happening with the Wolves. I don't know what's happening with Brian Verbeek, but you're not representing the league or your team or the city of Watertown, and these are good, hardworking people that are paying money, and you're going and doing crap like that. Now, of course, you did it on the road, and let's be honest. This is when you do crap like this, right? Is you do it on the road. You don't do it in front of your fans because even though there's YouTube and everybody can watch every single game, you can spin it the way you want. Verbeek can spin it the way he wants. He knows exactly what he was trying to do. He was trying to do slapstick hockey from the 1970s, whether he was a Flyers fan or maybe he was a freaking Johnstown Jets fan or whatever it might be. He was trying to do something. Why? I don't know. It wasn't going to serve you anything. And he still lost 4-0. So moving on. However, the upcoming 2 games versus the Watertown Wolves, again, 3 Wolves suspended from last Saturday's game. Seaman received 2 games. Leeson received also 2 games. And Lord got 1 game. He will be able to return on Saturday night. Binghamton is 3-1 this season versus the Watertown Wolves. Will these games be less feisty? I don't know. Will Verbeek and this team, if this team is losing, will the players start to lose their composure? I don't know. I'm hoping that the league stepped in and said, hey, calm the frick down. We don't need this kind of thing. right? So the other thing that I want to bring up, and it's kind of very important, is we'll take a look at the transactions for this past week, right? Not much for the Binghamton Black Bears, but they did release Ryan Terse from his 4-game PTO. Gavin Yates is returning from suspension, so he's going to be available for Friday and Saturday night's game against the Watertown Wolves. And, of course, the suspensions are up there for Tom Reynolds and Brant Sherwood, which I'm sure that Andreas Johansson was happy to pay. So that's pretty much it for my segment. I want to thank everybody for listening. Again, next week, we will be doing kind of like a look-see into 2023. How did the Binghamton Black Bears do in 2023? I think the numbers are pretty impressive if you think about it. You know, the winning numbers, the wins, the losses between the two seasons, the two halves of the seasons. How did 2023 come and go? There was probably some disappointment with some players leaving, but there was also some really cool excitement. I think Connor Smith and Brandon Stanko, guys like that really kind of brought some new life into the organization. So, again, next week, probably in between Christmas and New Year's, on that Thursday, next Thursday, there will be a show, no interview, just a little bit of a breakdown of 2023, and then we'll get back into it again. But I'm probably wasting too much time talking, and you guys probably want to listen to my interview with Connor McAnanama. He's the goaltender for the Binghamton Black Bears. He just had a shutout, and now he's on the Power Play Post Show. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show is Connor McAnanama. I'll be back right after this.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I'm really excited to have this gentleman on. And as long as I don't mispronounce his last name, we will be good this whole interview. It'll be fine. But he comes to us from the Binghamton Black Bears. Really excited to have on goaltender Connor McAnanama. Connor, welcome to the show. Hopefully I did the name justice.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me, and it came out perfect. I couldn't have done it any better myself.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I had to practice it when you joined the Black Bears and you signed on, and there was the press release. I'm looking at that going, that is way too many A's. That's way too many N's. I am never going to get that right. So I listened to Brooks Hill, and then I practiced it in the mirror about 20,000 times to get it right. So, again, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty sure that was the first conversation me and Brooksy had with each other.
Basically was, hey, how do you pronounce your name?
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's pretty cool. Connor, let's first talk a little bit about where you grew up. You grew up just outside of Springfield, Massachusetts, obviously a hotbed for minor league hockey there and everything. Talk a little bit about your childhood growing up in sports. Was there anything other than hockey that you played as well?
So yeah, growing up, I played a little bit of baseball when I was a kid too. I think I only played I believe it was parent pitch or coach's pitch or whatever you call. But even from a young age, nothing really interested me as much as hockey. And then. So I grew up just playing, town hockey for Westfield Youth Hockey Association, and played there for most of my, younger years. Then eventually made it to travel, and then just played for my hometown high school, Agawam High School, which actually, funny enough, is the rival to Westfield. So once I grew up and got to high school. My biggest rival happened to be all my childhood friends.
Oh wow!
From when I was younger, so that made the rivalry a little bit more fun for me and them too.
Yeah, and obviously, as a goaltender, none of them could check you really, right? So they could give you a little bit of a face wash and everything, but they couldn't really check you.
Oh yeah, a couple words after the whistle. It's always a lot of fun. Just stopping your buddies, and those are always the biggest games of the year for me.
Now, growing up, hockey was definitely something within your family that everybody loved. I know your father is a season ticket holder, or has been a season ticket holder in Springfield and everything. How important has that been for your development as a hockey player, having family that is just so big into what you do now?
Yeah. So I mean, growing up, I don't think my dad never was really into hockey, and neither was my mom growing up. But I kind of just found a love for it. My mom would always tell me that when I was like a little kid, it was March, April, that kind of thing. So it was playoff hockey season, and my dad would always watch hockey with me, like the playoffs and that kind of thing. So they think that that's how I kind of picked up on it, saw it on TV all the time, watching it. And I was like, oh, this is great. And eventually, they took me to games, especially at the Mass Mutual Center, and seeing, the quality of players there and all the fans, screaming their name, that kind of thing. And, that's kind of what started the dream there.
Talk a little bit about when you were young. I hear that you scored a goal in the championship game when you were 8 years old. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was also when I played for Westfield Youth Hockey. I remember we went, what was it? I think it was 29-0-1.
Wow.
That year. I split goalie and player. But yeah, that's like it's a big highlight of my life. I don't think I'll ever forget that moment. I was, I think I won a draw in the neutral zone. I was just kind of bringing the puck in the zone, looking for a change. I skated across the top of the blue line and just kind of hummed a backhand in there. And I remember skating towards the bench. I didn't even look at the puck, and all of a sudden the buzzer went off. It scared the crap out of me. And I didn't even have time to celebrate because all my friends were hugging me, teammates were hugging me. And I never saw the puck go in, but I'll never forget that moment for the rest of my life. I'm pretty sure when I was in high school, I mean, you get the prompts of, what was like what was one of your more unforgettable moments in life. And I'd be like 16, 17 years old writing about the time I scored a goal when I was 8 years old. So that one's always stuck with me for a long time.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I had a couple moments in baseball where I look back at Little League and said, well, that was my best moment right there, even when I was, 18 or 19 years old and everything. So I completely understand that. You being from Massachusetts in the Springfield area, prep school hockey was pretty big, is still pretty big in Massachusetts. Did any of your friends actually go and play prep school hockey? Because I know that's probably some of the most competitive hockey in our country. Believe it or not, in the U.S., some of the most competitive hockey is really prep school hockey, especially for someone who's, a teenager.
Yeah, I'd say most of my friends kind of stuck to just a town. I know one of my good friends growing up with was Brian Scoville, and he played our freshman year at Agawam High School, and after that he went and played for Cushing and then Winchendon Prep School. And he's an amazing hockey player. He's the captain now at Utica. But I think out of all my buddies, he's the only one that went and played prep.
And you guys probably heard about the prep school guys, right? And how good and how competitive that hockey was. Oh
yeah, I remember. They'd play before or after our high school games, and that place would be packed with for Cathedral, who's I think they're Pope Francis. But at the time they had goalies like a goalie like Keith Petrozelli. They had a guy Johnny Leonard. I think they're both in. I think Johnny's in. I think they're both in the AHL now. But I mean, those guys brought in the crowd, and it was amazing to see that many people show up for a high school hockey game. They were really good. Talk a little bit about the Boston Bandits.
what age group were you at that point, and what was the Boston Bandits like?
So that was my first year after U18. So I was 19 going into that, and that was my first taste of kind of being on my own a little bit. I was lucky enough to live with the Monagans out there in Bridgewater, and they were an unbelievable billet family. I couldn't ask for a better place to stay. They helped me with food and all that kind of stuff, and I still talk to them to this day. But yeah, that was a big step. Going from U18 to NCDC. I remember my dad had a joke with me. I don't know how much of a joke it was at the time, but I was playing NCDC or U18, watching an NCDC game. My dad was like, "Hey, if you want to go anywhere, this is where you're going to have to play next year. He's free hockey." He's like, "I'm done paying." So, looking back at it, I don't know how much he was joking, but ended up working out, and I had a great coach my first year, Rich Alger, and his son also played on the team, and he's now at UMass Amherst.
Okay.
But yeah, the organization, it was great. I know we had our own gym. We skated twice a day, and that was my first taste of being a legit full-time hockey player.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about that, and a lot of fans don't understand, is that youth hockey, high school hockey, a lot of the players still depend on their family a lot, right? There's a lot of that, your dad drives you to practice, or your mom gets you to a game, in Danbury, Connecticut, or wherever it may be, and everything. So people don't realize that when you guys go off on your own for the first time, it's not just to play, maybe at a better level of hockey, but at the same time, it's to really kind of figure out. It's like getting a job after college and being on your own. It's a lot different than what people realize. How did that help you?
Honestly, I think hockey itself kind of prepared me for, being a little bit, more on my own. You learn a lot. I feel like I learned a lot of life lessons. Just how to be a man and how to deal with problems. And working with other people. I think playing helped me transition to kind of being on my own, because it's like, hey, this is a step up. You got to take care of yourself. You got to man up. And make sure that your body's ready to play, and that you're getting enough sleep, that kind of thing, because that's a lot more important, than you realize, especially when you're a kid. It's always go, go, go. Yeah. I don't need to sleep. I can stay up, and that's taking care of yourself it was a big jump, but I think it's something that I'll never look past juniors for helping me grow as a person.
And the level of hockey, the speed of the game changed too, right? A lot faster.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember it was the first year I played. We going up against the New Jersey Hitmen, and they'd have 6 Division I commits on their team, and all that. So it was definitely a little daunting task. But after a couple of weeks of being there, it got my confidence up, and I was, hey, I can do this. I can keep up with these guys, and it's just a lot of fun being able to play against all those guys and see where they are now.
Now, Connor, obviously you did the team itself here in Binghamton. Two shootouts where giving up just 1 goal and everything. But when you were with the Bandits, there was a game where you went 12 rounds without giving up a goal. So obviously you have the ability to really read a player as he's coming in on the shootout. Talk a little bit about that game where you didn't give up anything in 12 rounds and everything in the shootout and everything. And what is it about shootouts that seem to just kind of you feel comfortable in?
So I don't know if I'm pumping my own tires here, but I think it was 15. I think it was 15 rounds. If if I remember correctly.
Well, my information then was wrong. I'm going to have to go back to my source and have a conversation with that person. But yeah, either way,
No worries.
it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, so I mean, even so, 15 rounds and what you've done so far this year that we've seen in the shootout, pretty impressive. So, what is it about shootouts that you like?
I kind of like the pressure. It just, it gets the blood pumping, gets the legs going a little bit, and especially in shootouts, the team really relies on you to make the save so that they have a little bit more confidence, or that they're a little more comfortable going down and scoring on the other goalie. Just take the pressure off them a little bit.
Yeah.
I just, one-on-one, I don't got to worry about a rebound, and it's kind of just more like the mental state it puts you in. You just like, it's all on me. It's the team needs me to step up here, and and when you have the opportunity to do it, and and obviously when you're lucky enough to win, unlike I was, and my first two, it's just a real good feeling because it's really like, wow, the team needed me to step up, and I was able to do it for them.
Now, we were talking a little bit off air. You didn't play last year. You did some coaching and some other things. What year were you playing against some D1 and NHL players in a summer league? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah. So after juniors, I committed to UMass Boston, and so I went out there during COVID, and at the time, we weren't able to skate at our rink, so we skated at Thayer Academy, which is probably like 25, 30-minute drive from where we were staying. And one day, I think some men's league team needed a goalie, and I went down, I played for them, and the guy was like, "Oh man, you're great! Like, can you keep playing?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so summer comes around, and I'm still playing for the men's league team, and one day he's like, "Hey, I run the rink here. Like, do you mind if they're like, would you be able to come and skate with the pro guys in a 3-on-3 game?" And of course, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, absolutely." I don't ask who's playing or nothing. And show up, and it's like a bunch of NHL, AHL guys from the area, just looking to get a skate in, and it ended up drawing a crowd, but that was awesome. Somehow men's league turns into me being able to play with like guys like Jack Eichel, Sanford, Colin White, Donato. I think there's one more, Connor Garland.
Okay, so I have to ask you: did Jack Eichel score on you or no?
Yeah, he got me a couple of times, but I remember the first time we played. I'll never forget this. I think I was just feeling myself that game, and I think I stopped him like 3 or 4 times in a row. I'm feeling good, and he gets a one-timer, and I get a piece of like my leg pad or something and make the save. And so he kind of yells or whatever, and I'll censor it for the air, but he kind of said something, and he was skating by me, so I was like, "Hey, buddy," and he turns around, looks at me, and I gave him a couple words, and he turns back, looks at me, and he just starts smiling and laughing.
Nice.
And so ever since then, I wouldn't say we're like friends or nothing, but I think I earned his respect a little bit. He would always give me a tap on the pads and say what's up when we play against each other. But yeah, after that, I think he might have got 4 or 5, but it's the first couple that count.
No, absolutely. So let me ask you, playing against guys of that caliber, and yeah, maybe they're not going 100%, right, because of the situation. It's not the NHL. They're not making that particular money for those particular games. But does it give you a sense of confidence to be able to play against those guys and to see what you've got against them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially going in, I remember I don't know if it was I'm not sure if it was, so it was the second summer that I played, the second summer that I was in Boston. At the end of the season, they have playoffs or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think we made it, we ended up making it to the finals, the 3-on-3 round and that kind of thing. And, it was just one of those realization. It's like, wow, like, maybe I can play pro hockey. And it was just kind of getting my chance to play. I mean, obviously they still lit me up. The scores were still, you get like a 20 to 15 score, that kind of thing. Because I mean, they're so skilled and come in tight, that kind of thing. It's all of their specialties.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of take what you can and roll with it. But it was just a real eye-opening experience, and you gain so much respect, seeing them on TV and everything. But like on close and having them shoot on you, it's like, wow, like there's a reason why these guys are getting paid the big bucks,
Yeah, without a doubt. No, I totally agree. So obviously you said last year you didn't play, you did some coaching, high school and whatnot. How did you? Was there a phone call? How did you get in touch with basically the Binghamton Black Bears, or how did they get in touch with you?
So I ended up getting in touch with the Binghamton Black Bears through a hockey camp called Elite Hockey. Mm-hmm. It's run up in New Hampshire at the New Hampton Prep School.
Yeah,
and I was just doing some goalie coaching there, strength conditioning coaching, that kind of thing. And one of the other guys there, I became friends with this guy Connor Boyce, and we would just be talking and that kind of thing. And eventually, I was like, yeah, like I'm still looking to play, but I don't have any contacts really. I don't really know who to reach out to, that kind of thing. He's like, oh, like my buddy Brant Sherwood, he used to work here. He's actually coaching in the FPHL this year, and he's like, I can shoot him a text for you, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so he shot Sherwood a text, and about like an hour and a half later, I'd say, Sherwood gave me a call. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, I looked over your stats on Elite Prospects, that kind of thing, whatever videos you can find on YouTube. He's like, yeah, like I'd like to give you a chance, and I was like, I was obviously super pumped that I was gonna be able to play competitive hockey again, and so it was kind of a crazy, I guess, way to get in touch with a coach. But word of mouth and is always a good way to go, I guess.
Now, how was that first conversation with Coach Sherwood? I got to be honest with you. Every conversation I've had with him, he seems to always have a smile on his face. Now, of course, he's the head coach of the Binghamton Black Bears, so he may not always have a smile on his face. But at least in my interactions with him, just generally a nice guy, and he really cares about the players on the team. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with Coach Sherwood?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's a day I walk in the rink and don't say hi to Coach without him having a smile on his face. And I feel like it really makes it a lot easier on us. He's super straightforward with us. I definitely say he's a player's coach. He knows when to be hard on us. He knows when to ease up a little bit. But it makes our jobs a lot easier. Going to the rink every day. You can be buddy with your coach. But it's when it's time to come down to business. He's a coach.
Yeah.
And you can see it. Playing hockey, you got a new coach every couple of years normally, and I believe this is his first full year.
Yeah.
Coaching with the Black Bears, and he's done an amazing job with the guys. I have no complaints at all, and he doesn't harp on us about anything unless we really need it. He lets us play our game. He obviously is great with systems, all that stuff. He's like, but if you see something, it's hockey. You got to adapt to the game and to what's in front of you. So it just makes it a real relaxed environment. Able to do what you need to do to get better, and it's definitely a pleasure to have him, at the head of the ship.
Connor, obviously you've got Brant and obviously Tom Reynolds is an assistant coach and everything. But who's working with the goalies? Who's working with you and Sam and Eggy on goaltending stuff? Does Brant still come to you guys with suggestions and ideas from video that they're watching? How do you guys get coached? Basically with the team when there's really not a goalie coach on the team.
Yeah. So we don't have a goalie coach here, but I'd kind of like to say that I'm maybe a little bit of the goalie coach.
Gotcha.
I have a little bit of have some coaching experience from last year, and I try to be very critical of myself, specifically considering that I don't have a coach. I normally, if I'm getting beat in a certain way or like over and over, it's one of those things. Like obviously, I got to figure something else out.
Right.
And so I like to I remember my dad told me this. He's like, if you go to the rink and you think that you have nothing to work on, then you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
So you can always, everybody can always go to the rink and get better. And obviously, like you're not. He was always telling me you're clearly not in the NHL, so you got a lot to work on. So I just kind of try and be mindful of how I'm playing and be really honest with myself. I from coaching, I know drills that how to work on certain things and that stuff. But yeah, it's just kind of winging it, I guess. I like to help out the other guys, when I can. If Sam has any questions or Eggy has any questions, obviously I'm there for them. But I mean, we're doing pretty good right now, I'd say, in the net.
No, absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about, put your coaching hat on for a second for me, and talk about Sam's glove hand. It's one of the fastest glove hands I've seen in the FPHL. Would you not agree that, you may not have seen a lot of the other goaltenders, I'm sure, and everything, but he's got a really fast glove hand.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Sam's quick, and he knows especially how to use that to his advantage. Obviously, no one else sees this, but this guy, he's got some pretty big biceps. He's got some veins going through there. He's pretty strong. So, it might be his glove, but I think he reads the puck well. He reads the puck coming off the stick well, and he knows where it's going. And that helps him, position his glove as to where it generally might go. And then as soon as it comes off the stick, he's able to really, lock in and give himself a much better chance to make that glove save happen.
What's the relationship like between the three of you guys, you, Sam, and Eggy? What do you guys like, on the ice for practice or even off the ice?
No, it's awesome. I'd say we're all pretty much best friends at this point. We just try and keep it light, have fun, just hype each other up. If there's anything that one of us, like I said before, was something that one of us would like to work on, we're always there to give pointers to each other. But if you ever come into a practice, might be on the other end of the ice, but if I see Sam make a nice save, I'm slamming my stick and screaming for him.
Right.
And him and Eggy are the same exact way. And I think that makes our jobs a lot easier as well. Just being friends, like at the end of the day, all of us are here to win a championship, right?
Yeah.
And, whether it's, Sam in net, me in net, or Eggy in net, either way, we want what's best for our team. I think that makes us, all come together and be tighter as a group.
What went so well this weekend? I would say that it was the best two games I saw team defense-wise, and I think a big part of that, a lot of people will give, we throw stats out there for goaltenders all the time, right? Goals against average, save percentage, wins, losses, even shutout and everything. And we don't look at sometimes what happens in front of the goaltender. And yes, goaltenders make great saves. Sometimes they steal a game and everything. What went well from your point of view when you were in net both games? What went so well that you guys were to get 5 shutout periods and obviously complete, the shutout against the Watertown Wolves? What did you see in front of you? How did the team help you? Because team defense is something that I noticed this year, and I know you weren't here the last couple of years, that has improved so greatly.
So I'll start off with Friday with Danbury.
Yeah.
I think that we did I think it was, even at the beginning of the game there, I think there was a span where we blocked like 3 or 4 shots, like almost right at the beginning of the game. And I think that's a huge part of our D zone specifically is just, the boys are willing to sell out to block pucks. They're willing to put their body in front. They're willing to clear the front of the net for me, and it makes it a lot easier on me. When I can see that point shot coming through traffic. They push that last guy out of the way, so I get a clear view, and I can make sure that rebound gets into the corner. Making saves starts, with them of, giving me a much higher chance to make the save because they put, either the forward coming down in a tougher spot, or they're engaging on him and making him, or pressuring him to make him get off the shot that he might not necessarily want.
Right.
And I'd say, and what we did a great job of on Saturday was that our offense was our best defense. I mean, I thought we controlled the puck extremely well in the offensive zone, and which didn't even allow them to get much pressure whatsoever. And they were keeping shots to the outside. And I mean, I look at it as, like, especially with Saturday, like a shutout, it's a team shutout. It's a team stat. It's not a goalie stat. Like, yeah, it's great that I stop all the pucks that came my way, but they have to make the job easier on me as well. Keeping shots to the outside, that kind of thing, and letting me see the puck. So it's really a team stat. As a team, you want to get a shutout. It's obviously great. It looks good for goalies, but a lot has to go right defensively in a game for that to happen.
You started off the season with 2 OT losses, shootout and everything, and then you've won 5 in a row when you've gone in there. When you do have 2 other goaltenders to kind of fight for the competitiveness to get into the game and everything, is it hard to keep yourself ready to know that when Coach Sherwood calls your number that you are as mentally as ready? I mean, this is the first weekend where you did a back-to-back, and it's the first weekend anybody's done a back-to-back and everything. So can you talk a little bit about how hard it is to go, sometimes and play only one game in a weekend?
I mean, me personally, like it doesn't bother me too much. I mean, he's trying to do what's best for the team, and and figure out who he wants starting. And I personally, I try not to worry about things that I can't control.
Sure.
I go in there and I do my best every game, do my best every practice, that kind of thing. And I think it took me. I think I had a little butterflies a little bit the first 2 games that I ended up playing. Having the first one being in Danbury. That's an interesting rink to play in, to say the least. and then obviously with Carolina having all the hype behind them of being one of the top teams in the South, that kind of thing. I thought maybe I'd let that get to my head a little bit too much. And I think that I find when I play my best hockey when I'm just going out there and having fun and just being confident. I don't like to get too hard on myself, because if I get all upset that I let a goal in, or if I get all upset that someone clipped me on their way through, like, that's gonna why would I let that bother me when it's something that I can't go back and fix it. It's just kind of moving ahead and being ready for the next step. And coach always gives us a heads up too, what he's planning for the weekend. And obviously, I trust him. I have the utmost respect for Coach Sherwood. So I just kind of try and keep it light, focus on the things you can control, and deal with the battles that you have to deal with when you can't control them.
Now, of course, you're from Agawam, and that's just right outside of Springfield, and Springfield, an old American Hockey League city. Binghamton, obviously an old American Hockey League city as well. What have you liked about playing in Binghamton and just living in the city as you have for the past few months?
I mean, I think the size of the rink, especially growing up in right across the river from Springfield, I got to go and see all those, Springfield Falcons, Springfield Thunderbirds games, and see like the big rink and how many seats are in there and that kind of thing. And then, my first opportunity of playing professional hockey is in that rink, and it's the atmosphere is unbelievable. I mean, I remember the first time I walked in there, I was just like starstruck. I was like, holy crap, I get to play in front of this many people, that kind of thing. And I love it. I mean, our fans are great. They're always loud. It's always great to have them on our side, and we're doing pretty good at home right now too, which helps out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I mean, as for the area, we live a little bit outside of Binghamton, but I like it. It's I lived in Boston for 2 years, and it's a lot more laid back than of a city than Boston is, and I find that a little bit better for me personally. I like the more rural kind of setting, but it's a pleasure to play in Binghamton for sure.
Awesome. He is Connor McAnanama, and Connor, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I've loved getting to know your father a little bit as well through Messenger. Obviously, he is going to follow your career wherever you play, whatever you do, thoroughly. It's always great to have family on your side like that, which is amazing. But thank you very much for coming on the show. I definitely appreciate it, and hopefully I'll see you around the rink here soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a great time. It was good talking to you. And absolutely. Hopefully I'll see you around the rink.
Awesome. And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I couldn't have ended 2023 with a better interview than that with Connor McAnanama. I was a little nervous about doing the interview with Connor. The last interview that I did with a goaltender from Binghamton did not go so well. I'll leave that story kind of to the archives, so to speak. But Connor was great. I've gotten to know his father a little bit, Stephen McAnanama. And he's a Springfield Falcons season ticket holder, or at least has been for a very long time. And I just find it just kind of refreshing to be able to talk to another hockey fan like Steven and just really enjoy, that camaraderie between we're a former AHL city, and Springfield still is. And looking forward to maybe getting to meet Steven and talk to him a little bit about hockey in Springfield a little bit, just because I think that would be fun. I know the McAnanama family is coming to the games this weekend against Watertown, so that'll be great. Hopefully, Connor will get at least one start. Maybe he will, and that'll be great and whatnot. One of the things I just want to end the show with is one of the great things about so far what I've seen with the players is that great relationship that they have with their family. Ryan Kirkby, same type of thing, father of Tyson, great guy. I've had some great conversations with him as well, just about hockey in general, not even about Tyson, but just about hockey in general. So what a great 2023. I can't wait for next week's show where I kind of just break down some of the highlights and some of the really cool things that I've been able to, come back to. Hockey is a very great sport in the sense that there's a strange relationship between family, hockey player, even coaches and media, broadcasters, all those kind of people because it's the number 4 sport maybe in the United States, and I'm sure that soccer is starting to give it a little bit of run for its money. We all kind of look out for each other, whether it be the family members, the journalists, the media, that type of thing. So I'm just very blessed that I've been kind of welcomed back to this fold. I give an outlet. I give some conversation starters. I give a little bit of everything. So I'm pretty happy about that. All right, the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast and subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook, search for the Power Play Post Show, and maybe ask your friends to join as well. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lapolis, our MC, John Patitucci, one of my best friends from high school, our musical director, and our guest this week, Binghamton Black Bears goalie Connor McAnanama. And remember, one last reminder, next week's show will be a 2023 review episode looking at the back end of the 2022-2023 season and the beginning of this season, 23-24. I will grade the offense, defense, goaltending, coaching so far this season. I'll give my honest thoughts. I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be okay with my honest thoughts. I've not been shy from what I've said so far. I think offensively, defensively, goaltending, and coaching, we've been good so far this year. So I think it's going to be okay. All right, but I'll play the game. Put some letters on things. That type of thing. We'll have fun with it. But thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. And listen, whether you celebrate Hanukkah, which I know is ongoing and I think close to finishing up. Whether you celebrate Kwanzaa or even just a good old-fashioned Christmas, whatever it is, I hope you guys have had a great holiday. Good luck to the Black Bears this weekend, Friday and Saturday against the Watertown Wolves, and then, of course, on Monday, just to have a great day. And the Christmas spirit is really about being with your friends, your family. And you know what? Some of these players aren't going to be able to go home maybe to see their family. Hopefully they all do. Hopefully they all get home and everything. So just be good to each other out there. And we'll talk to you next time right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.